Hi, welcome back to my channel. In this video we explore Kamala Harris' strong stance on global leadership and the Pentagon's approval for Ukraine to use US weapons in Russia's Kursk region.
First and foremost, I'd like to congratulate my Ukrainian viewers and through them all the citizens of the European Union with Ukraine's Independence Day. I wish you all the best and most importantly, a swift victory in this war against Russian fascism. Today, there is good news for Ukraine which will contribute to its hopefully speedy victory. The Pentagon, through the representative of its press office, Sabrina Singh, reported that the United States has no objections to using their weapons for strikes on the territory of the Kursk region. The US has repeatedly stated that it supports Ukraine's defense efforts. This is a response to Russian aggression. Ukraine has the right to use allied weapons to repel and stop this aggression. Thus, American weapons can be used to strike targets, and she did not mention any restrictions on their use, meaning they could be used throughout the Kursk region, which is about 450 kilometers from Moscow. As we know, the basic missile models have a range of over 400 kilometers, with some models reaching 900 or even 980 kilometers. I believe that following this, there will be a similar permission from London to use weapons that can reach the northern parts of the Kursk region and the outskirts of Moscow. Sabrina Singh also noted that the United States still does not fully understand the intent and objectives of the Ukrainian Armed Forces offensive in the Kursk region, but is gradually getting involved. She believes their support will be more effective at this point. According to her, the United States understands that Ukraine wants to create a buffer zone in the areas it has established control over in the Kursk region, which would make it difficult for Russia to carry out hostile actions against Ukraine. She did not express any negative emotions or thoughts on this, and it is accepted that Ukraine plans to stay there for a long time because a buffer zone is not built for just a week. She also implied, judging by her statements, that Ukraine intends to establish fortifications there. Based on this, I believe the United States and its allies should help Ukraine's armed forces achieve this because there is a weakness in Ukraine's engineering units, which were disbanded in the past due to perceived lack of necessity. Now, in contrast, Russia is quickly digging in and building substantial defensive structures, while Ukraine's armed forces face challenges in this area. Allies should help with this. Sabrina Singh mentioned that the use of American weapons is not only limited to the Kursk region, but can also be used in all border regions from where threats to Ukraine originate. We can assume that Bryansk is another region where Ukraine can use American weapons against Russian forces across the border and possibly in any other location. The Pentagon press secretary did not set any restrictions on the depth at which these missiles or artillery can be used. She did not specify limiting distances like 10 kilometers or 20 miles. There are no such restrictions. So one can assume they can be used at the maximum range of these missiles and munitions. Sabrina Singh emphasized that the US continues to work on understanding the strategic goals the Ukrainian armed forces have in the Kursk region and how their actions there coordinate with what is happening in eastern Ukraine. In the Donbas region, you know that the situation there is difficult, with the enemy advancing rapidly. This is the critical situation I have mentioned in my previous assessments, where everything is at stake. On one side, the military operations in the Kursk region seem to be successful, but on the other, the situation in the Donbas region can turn critical and could tilt in one direction or the other. The Americans need to help, and I believe the tone and meaning of her statements suggest that the Americans not only understand, but also sympathize with what Ukraine is doing, and therefore should help. Let's hope this will happen. The second important event is that Kamala Harris officially became the Democratic Party's candidate for the presidency of the United States. This was the culmination of a 4-day party event. Observers are comparing how the Republican Party's convention, which took place about 2 weeks ago, went versus the Democratic Party's event. They were completely different. I saw comments of the Republican Party activists on X, former Twitter, who were panicking and shouting something like, "We're doomed, we're losing the elections." They showed graphs of the viewership of the Democratic Party's convention and other major political events on American TV networks. Fox News, the major network that sympathizes with the Republican Party, is seeing a drop in viewership. while the channels closer to the Democratic Party are seeing a rise. Kamala Harris declared that she will make sure the Democratic Party leads the world into the future, including space and artificial intelligence, so that America, not China, wins the race for the 21st century. She promised to strengthen America's global leadership, not abandon it. What a stark contrast between Kamala Harris and the Republican candidate. Trump has threatened to withdraw from NATO and made controversial comments implying he wouldn't defend NATO allies behind on payments, even encouraging Russia to act as they please. Kamala Harris' position is entirely opposite, and I fully support her stance. Kamala Harris said, "5 years ago, I met with President Zelensky to warn him about Russia's plans to invade." She mentioned that just 3 days before the invasion, the Washington Post reported that Yermak was in contact with Kozak, a Kremlin representative, who reassured him that there would be no invasion. Russia was playing a deceptive game, applying pressure, amassing troops, and trying to convince NATO that everything was under control. Kamala Harris had warned that things would take a bad turn. Unfortunately, Zelensky's administration, especially Yermak, trusted Russia more than the US vice president or even the president. Despite Biden's clear warning that aggression was imminent, Harris said that she helped mobilize a global response for more than 50 countries to protect against Putin's aggression through the Ramstein Group and as president. She will stand firmly on the side of Ukraine and our NATO allies. There you have the position of the Democratic Party's candidate. Moreover, the topic of supporting Ukraine was mentioned at least 4 times during the convention, as far as I heard. One congresswoman, who is said to be too left-wing, said, "It doesn't matter to me if someone is left or right, what matters is their stance on Ukraine and Putin. That's the only criterion for me." And yet, at the Republican Party convention, I didn't hear anyone, let alone the candidates, mentioning the problem of Russian aggression against Ukraine or that it should be addressed. Not once. For me personally, the question is absolutely clear. On November 5th, those people who support Ukraine and oppose the fascist state that now exists in Putin's Russia have only one chance, and that's Kamala Harris. Whether they are right-wing, left-wing or centrists. It doesn't matter right now. It's like in 1932 or 1933, are you for or against Hitler? That's basically it. Harris said, "As president, I will stand firmly on the side of Ukraine and our NATO allies." Under President Harris, Ukraine will have a chance to join NATO for many reasons, which we will discuss further. Because the red lines that were previously called red lines by Putin, which cannot be crossed because of the threat of nuclear war, do not really exist anymore. Given that Kamala Harris is unlikely to accept Russia's demands regarding Ukraine, there is a strong possibility that under her leadership, Ukraine could join NATO. If this happens, Ukraine will secure its rightful place in Europe, strengthen its economy, and potentially become the strongest military power in Europe, possibly even a hub for military and defense advancements. In summary, Kamala Harris presents a clear and determined vision for America's role on the global stage, with a firm commitment to supporting Ukraine in its struggle against Russian aggression. Her stance offers hope for Ukraine's future within NATO and its potential to become a significant military power in Europe. In contrast to the Republican candidate's ambiguous and concerning positions, Harris' unwavering support for Ukraine and global leadership underscores the critical importance of her potential presidency. As we look ahead, it is crucial for those who stand with Ukraine and value international alliances to consider the profound implications of this election. With Harris at the helm, there is a real opportunity for Ukraine to secure a prosperous and stable future within the European and global community.